Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the 23-24 school year here in the Dearborn Public Schools. I'm David Mustonen, Director of Communications for the Dearborn Public Schools. Joining us on this edition of School Matters, our kickoff edition of the year, is our Superintendent Dr. Maleyko. Glenn, how are you doing?
Doing very well. Thank you, David, for having me on the show. I know our summers went quick, but we're ready and we're planning and getting ready for all our students to come back, so I appreciate being on the show today.
Well, yeah. I mean, summertime is always a great time. I mean, everyone gets that break and things slow down a little bit, but not really. Like for our operations guys, summertime is full blown.
Yeah, and we have our one-time federal dollars through ESSER, so there's been a lot of construction going on. And they do a great job, really, because they have a limited window where students are not in. And so we try to accommodate that. In some cases, we've had to, with expanding some of our operations and our infrastructure, we've had to do things during the year, but obviously we make sure it's safe for students. But during the summer is really the time, and then we have to work around with the summer school programs. They do a great job, and you might recall too, I mean, the last board meeting in July, we had a fire from a power outage from a pole, and they were able to get a generator in here and get it working. So they really do work extremely hard, and we appreciate the work they do.
Yeah, so I think as students and staff and parents come back to the buildings, they're going to see just the general, cleaning that goes on in the summer, but it's a lot of new improvements and a lot of new buildings as well. But we're ready to start a new school year, Glenn, and let's talk about some of the things that we're looking forward to this school year.
Well, the first thing I look forward to, my two favorite things of the year, first day of school, first week of school, and I'll say week or two because it takes me a couple weeks to get to every building with a large district, but the excitement, there's some anxiety of students and parents, and, I have two children. I remember when my daughter, now she's third year of college, but she was a kindergarten student. I remember how tough that was on my wife. So, and as parents, so we understand the excitement and some of the nervousness that comes with the first day, but it is a great time, to get out there, and we'll be out in the schools. I'll be all over the district driving around, welcoming students, and it is a very exciting time. And I know our staff, we've had multiple meetings. In fact, we just left a meeting right now with all our administrators, and everyone is hard at work planning for the new year. So, this is about students, and I also want to recognize our great staff too, David, that works hard each and every day supporting our students, because we wouldn't be able to do it without them. And then, of course, partnering with parents in the community.
Well, just talking about staff, like you said, it really is a partnership between all of our staff. We have instructional and non-instructional, and some really good news has occurred over the summer as far as negotiating contracts with our unions, who are our partners in this education process.
Yeah, we were very excited that we've been able to settle 4 union contracts that were up, and it's a challenging time for human resources. We are in a good state, though, because of the funding coming from the state has been positive. And what we always try to do is we're there for the students, and we have funding for the students, but ultimately, where 86% of our budget is for our staff, is about staff. It's about people that support students. And so we're glad that we can give some back, because I do think over the last, maybe 15 years, there's been, that reduction in budgets and school budgets and underfunding. And we're still dealing with that, for example, on a state and national level in the special ed funding. But we are very positive. We appreciate the negotiating teams from the different unions, the DFT, DSOEA, engineers, our DFSE, our support staff, also with our administrators, and then we have different aspects with childcare and others that are working with as well, but our 4 big unions, and we're very excited that we've been able to settle these contracts in the best interest of our students and our staff, and we appreciate them, union heads advocating for their staff members, and I can say it was, a positive process all around, so I want to thank them.
Well, like I said, we're all in it for the for the students, and all of these contracts, we want to make sure that we're able to reward the staff who have been here. So it's about retention of staff, and these contracts do that, but also recruiting new staff. It's on both ends, and I think that a lot of what we're seeing helps in both of those efforts.
Yeah, because we are in a shortage in multiple areas, not just in education, but in general. We know that there's shortages out there of workers. And so we also have a teacher shortage. And so we're trying to retain, and we're competitive. And we do have teachers that we've been able, through these contracts and the fact that we do have the ability to give them good compensation that they deserve, to bring them back to the district or to actually entice them to come to the district. So we're in a very competitive market right now with both teachers from other districts, with industry, and part of it is the shortage. So it is in our best interest to make sure that those contracts are well for the staff so that they will come, so we have high quality people providing support for our students ultimately. And so some of the things may be different that parents may see. It may not be as comfortable. It might create some inconveniences. But the bottom line, too, is that, remember, we're trying to retain staff, and we want to make sure we have staff in the classrooms providing support for students.
Right. It's all about that retention and recruitment. So that kind of brings us right, since we're talking about the start of the new school year, and a subject that's been kind of talked about, and we can talk about it a little bit here, is something new to the calendar this year, is an early release that we'll be doing on Tuesdays. And I think that you have done some things and taken some measures to kind of ease ourselves into this new early release on every Tuesday.
Yeah, we've been meeting to discuss it, and because of the timing, because negotiations took a while, in a normal calendar year, we would like to get the calendar out in February. You know, if we settled the contract sooner, we'd be able to, but we didn't. So this is the reality, and so it's coming out at kind of a tight timeline for parents, so we understand that. So what we've done is delayed it until October with the Tuesday early release. I will say that, you know, change sometimes is difficult. And I do remember in 08, I think it was 07, 08, when the 09, where the late starts came in. And it was the same thing. It was an adjustment, and people adjusted to it. So this is a change ultimately to help students, because what we're trying to do is get staff the ability to work together, to plan, to support the children in the classrooms. And it does have that retention piece too, because we've enticed by doing some of the meetings the way we're doing them. It's a benefit to staff as well because of how we're looping the time together. It does create some inconveniences for parents. We understand that. We're also working on possibly some support for elementary and middle school to have, whether it be childcare or other extracurricular programs or other programs. I can't remember exactly how we're labeling it, but we're brainstorming, and we want to do that. We understand some of the inconveniences. But, you know, we're in negotiations. It's an all a balance. And ultimately, long term, this will be a benefit to our students. And again, I think staff will be happy with the new process. But I also want to say there's going to be some growing pains. As we shift in, we just talked about it with the administrators. It's not going to be perfect in the start. It's going to take some time to adjust. But I will credit our team that I know that's been working hard. From executives, I know Ms. Farage and Mr. Martin and Ms. Sewer taking the lead on the specifics with the professional learning community time for staff to support students, and then obviously with the negotiating team with Ms. Ali Bazzi, and then our board, who's been supportive as well as we move forward despite some of the challenges that we know we'll face moving forward.
Sure, absolutely. Bottom line, it's going to benefit our kids in our classroom, because it's going to make our schools better. It's going to make our instruction better, and the board and our professionals in the classroom, our teachers wanted this, and worked with us to develop this and make this happen. So.
Yeah, and we proposed it. It was something that kind of came from administration, but then
Right.
Ultimately there are benefits to the teachers too with the way their time is allocated. So, you know, obviously it was negotiated and it was agreed upon between the two union groups. So, or the union and the district. So
Yeah. So that's something that we'll look forward to, and it's good to know that we've got that extra time now, because it'll be starting in October rather than right
Yes.
away in September. So that's good. So another aspect, though, too, helping to drive that instruction is our strategic plan.
Yes.
We've always had one in place, but every few years you have to renew it because you want to make sure you're accomplishing the things in it and then set new goals. And that's where we are now. And we've got a new strategic plan that we're excited to talk about as well, right?
Yes, we just went through the process. We had community members on the group, staff, and others. We had meetings in the spring. We had 3 meetings, and then it went back to the steering committee. We do have a good baseline because this will be now my 3rd round of it as my 9th year as superintendent. And I've seen it over the years because I'm going into my 28th year in the district when I was a principal and an assistant principal when we did strategic planning. So I do have a good grasp of that. We also partner with our accreditation institute, Cognia, which we're fully accredited. We had a great report. So that is all looped in and integrated. And then Ms. Farage takes the lead with Ms. Arani and now Dr. Patterson. And really they're trying to make it so it all fits together. The one thing, I was at the Michigan Association of School Boards conference last week, and we presented on student voice. And we showed them, though, also for parents, the one pager. And others were like, we need to see that because they, we have the in-depth, but then we have that one pager, and we weren't there necessarily about the plan. It was more about student voice, but they asked specifically for that, and they were taking pictures of that one page. So Ms. Farage did a nice job. I think the fact that there's a few other things that I know that we're working on is just valuing staff as we put students first, and we've had some statements in there. And then the other thing that we did all of last year and we've been really working on is diversity, equity, and inclusion for all of our students. And so we've been doing training, and we have a plan there that we're going to link into the strategic plan so that all students from, whether it be from different ethnic groups, race, marginalized groups, we want to make sure that all of our students feel welcome in the district.
Well, and I think that's what's so important about a strategic plan, that it's not some big, thick book that sits on a shelf. It's a real plan that is easy to digest, that has real goals that people can see, measurable goals, and it's something that we're actually doing. That's something that this district has a pretty good reputation of following through on that, and that's good to see that all of those aspects, the student voice, the DEI, the diversity, equity, and inclusion, and also another topic that's part of that strategic plan that I know we want to talk about too is safety and security as part of that.
Yeah, safety and security, number one. In fact, in the meeting, we were talking about it again. It's on every agenda that I have with administrators. We've done online training, and we also have our school resource officers, our great partnership with the Dearborn Police and Chief Shaheen. And we are, helping to offset the cost of that. We have some funding going in there, and it's a partnership. So we also are going to have all of our teachers trained in person through our feeder groups. And Miss El-Zayat has been taking the lead and has done a great job. But we pretty much, as you know, David, on every agenda for every meeting I have, it's pretty much on there. And we do have regular meetings at the district level, but then we have emergency operation plans at each school level, and their teams also meet on a regular basis to go over that. And this year we had consultants that came in and gave us a review of things that we may need to do or improve to improve student safety. So I think that's very, very important.
Well, and I think that is something that is always emphasized in this safety and security is that everybody's a part of it. Everybody has to be part of it. It's not one person saying do this, this, and this. Everybody has to be part of it. And also it's ongoing. You constantly have to look at ways to improve and get better and make sure that you're doing the latest things. And I think that's good that we brought in that consultant to help us with that. Yeah,
and it's the adults, but it's also the students too. So, like sometimes there might be a need, and you might be doing it for precautionary that you're calling a lockdown drill through our Alice technique that we've implemented and trained. But students have to, cooperate with us too. And that's one thing too, that when these things happen, we don't want them, sending off videos and other things that might jeopardize the safety. So really, and students brought that up to me, to be honest, in my council meetings, it's not a good idea to be doing that. So they've got us, working with staff and parents, and then parents just understanding that we are doing this if there's a drill or maybe a possible issue, let's say it's in the neighborhood and the police say do it. Sometimes it's just precautionary, but we're doing it to make sure that student safety becomes number one, and it does create some inconveniences, but all of our staff are trained in these areas.
Yeah. So we've got, staff ready and in place, and we're looking at some favorable funding coming from the state. We've got a strategic plan that's ready to go and that's in place, giving us direction on where we're going. So a lot of positive things, a lot of great things to look forward to this school year. I know you want to talk about student voice, so before we wrap it up here, talk a little bit about that. You kind of mentioned it a little bit in a few things.
Yeah, sure.
But I know it is something that's always been important to you. It is something you started right away 8 years ago when you became superintendent. But how is that student voice? How has that grown, and how are we still incorporating that in all that we do?
Yeah, so I think that's critical, and I love to see the leadership. I mean, we get more and more students that apply every year, and Dr. Swayden does a great job with the applications, and Ms. Musa is also part of the group that meets on a district level. And so students can apply to that group, but then they have responsibilities in their building to gather information on important topics. When we present at the conference, we do. Students have made some, for example, the SFE food service. That would not be here if it wasn't for the students, to be honest, because years ago they asked for some changes. We started looking into it. That's just one example of many. They've been involved in the strategic planning, infrastructure planning, other things. They've been on committees. I do feel very proud of the fact that students will text me, call me, WhatsApp, and we're constantly in communication. And it's very refreshing because ultimately that's what we're there for. And the fact that the students are also, the strength that they have is they're mentoring other students at different ages, especially like the high school to the middle school. So I think we're going to continue to expand that. I know it's a hot topic at the state level, and we have several of our students that are on Dr. Rice's state student advisory committee. Dr. Swayden likes to say that, we started it and then he grabbed it, but I don't know which was first. But we've been doing it 8 years, and we just believe heavily in it. And so whenever we can get students at a board meeting to present or just involved in something, I think it's very powerful. And there's rich conversations. I think it also brings, by bringing students from different schools across the district together, it's that inner district. You feel more united as a Dearborn Schools with such a large district with almost 25,000 students. So we'll continue to expand that. And part of it is just, all us as staff, me, interacting with students. And then, of course, the students like getting in those pictures on Instagram, so I can't let them down. And we presented that at the conference, saying I got trained on how to use Instagram from those students. So.
Well, that's great, and
Yeah.
and like you said, it's a meaningful dialogue. It's not just it's not just a figurehead kind of
Yeah.
thing. It's a meaningful dialogue with those students. They're serving on district-wide committees and having a real voice in the direction of our
Yeah.
district. So.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. All right, well, there we
Thank
go.
you.
We got a lot going on. We were ready for a new school year. Final thoughts just to
Yeah.
get parents ready and fired up.
Just parents, welcome back. Students, welcome back. We're excited for the 28th, the first day, and I look forward to seeing you in the schools. And, we're going to be working hard over the next week to make sure schools are ready, both on an operational and instructional side. And there will be some transitioning time, but look forward to seeing y'all. And I'm very excited to meet with all the students throughout the district. And I hope that everyone had a wonderful summer, and I wish you all the best for a great start to the school year.
Great. Thank you very much, Glenn. Appreciate you taking a few minutes to join us here on School Matters. I want to thank everybody here for taking a few minutes to stop by and visit with us too on School Matters. Dearborn Public Schools, a lot going on. It's a great place to be, and it's a great place because we're always putting students first.